Discovered my brother secretly married my fiancé while I was hospitalized, leaving our family in disbelief and chaos. I, 24F, am a single mom to my son, Owen, 8. It's been just us since day one. His father isn't in the picture and has been able to avoid child support for years now. Yes, I've tried everything. My own parents disowned me. I had to drop out of high school and have worked a myriad of jobs since then to keep us afloat. We aren't on the poverty line by any means, but we definitely live paycheck to paycheck, in a one-bedroom apartment. It's not ideal and I hope within the next couple of years, we'll be someplace bigger. For now, it's our situation. I've raised Owen to know that money isn't everything. We may not have a lot. He won't always have the newest this or that. But we have each other. The two of us are very close. He has never gone without the basics, but I admit, he doesn't get a lot of fun extras. I try to save a little here and there to make birthdays and holidays fun, but it's still never anything glamorous. And I think Owen was fine with that. Until recently, anyway. In our area, all the public schools are based on a lottery system. So, your child has a fair shot of going to any of them, so long as you put in their name. Our neighborhood school is not great and in a pretty crappy area, so I decided to put him in a different one across town. It's near my job, so it works out. Last year, when he was in second grade, he met Charlie. They began hanging out a lot after school, with Owen going to his place. I met Charlie's parents, Nate and Paige, a couple of times before this began. They seemed very nice and supportive. Owen always had a great time at their house. Charlie occasionally came to our apartment, but usually they were at his place. Which made sense. I work and there's really not much for them to do here, even when I am off. Summer breaks are easy to find care, as there are several free or low-cost camps that I can put Owen in. It's the shorter breaks, such as Christmas and spring, that are harder. Camp space is limited. Spring break of 2022, I managed to just miss registration. Paige is a stay-at-home mom and offered to take Owen for the week. I was hesitant to ask so much of her, but she insisted. He had a really fun time with them. They did a ton of activities and Paige refused my attempts to pay her back at least some. I couldn't afford all. I admit, I did feel a tad uncomfortable with her spending this much on my son, but at the same time, I didn't want to deprive Owen of this stuff. Summer came and while I did get Owen into camp, he spent a ton of time with Charlie as well. He ended up going on vacation with them. I was again, very hesitant, but the experience was something I could never give Owen and it wasn't too far away. He had a blast. I kept telling Nate and Paige that there's no way I could ever pay them back and they kept insisting that they loved having Owen around. They told me what a great kid he is. Sweet, respectful. At one point, I really pressed Paige as to why she was so insistent on having Owen around so much. That's when she told me that they never planned for Charlie to be an only child, but all attempts at giving him a sibling just didn't happen. They know that Owen will never make up for not having a brother, but if they can give him a consistent playmate so he's not lonely, they'll do it. Should this have been a red flag? Maybe. But at the same time, I found it sweet that the boys considered each other brothers. I thought it was innocent. Surely, Paige and Nate knew the truth. Right? Right? This continued for a bit and come Christmas break of 2022, Paige and Nate insisted that I not even bother to try to get Owen into a camp. They'd take care of him for me. I was grateful. They ended up getting him more Christmas gifts than I did. I tried to set my pride aside because it was about Owen, not me. This is still when things finally started seeming off to me. I understood a gift on his birthday and while they didn't get him as many gifts that they got Charlie, it was a lot more than you would typically get your kid's friend. Fast forward to now, spring break was last week and this time, Paige and Nate didn't just offer to take care of him during the day while I worked, they asked if Owen could spend the entire week at their house. Honestly, it meant I could pick up some more shifts and save up for the bike Owen wants for his birthday. So, I said yes. I went to pick him up on Saturday afternoon. The kids were playing out back, so Nate and Paige asked to talk to me. They sat me down and said they love Owen and he's always such a joy to have. I thanked them profusely for all they'd done for him. Paige suggested that Owen stay a little longer. I pointed out Easter was Sunday plus school started up on Monday. They said they could take him to school. I felt weird and said, no, it was time for Owen to come home. That's when Nate suggested that Owen stay with them long term. I could still see him, but they would take care of him. I thought they were joking and said like what, you'd be his guardians or something? They got quiet and the reality rushed over me. I pointed out that this wasn't a movie. They can't just get custody. They started spouting some legal stuff about how I could assign them as guardians and they would help make this transition smooth. They told me to think about Owen and what's best for him. I told them there was no way in hell I was going to give up my son. I grabbed Owen and we left. I've blocked their numbers. Owen has no clue what's going on. I'm keeping him home tomorrow and took the day off work to figure some stuff out. Legally, they can't take him. But now I know what they want and I'm terrified. I don't want him going back to that school. Do we move? I'm so lost. And I feel so stupid because looking back, all the warning signs were there. I know Owen is going to be devastated losing Charlie, Paige, and Nate. How am I ever going to explain it to him? Update 1. While I understand those saying they potentially meant well and weren't trying to be offensive, it's still a risk I can't take. It's not like they offer to take him every so often. They wanted him full-time, permanently. To those who said I should just let them, please pass me whatever drugs you are on. I will never give up my son. Do we have the newest this or that? No. We have our needs met. I love my son and I am not letting him go. As for everyone else, I took your advice and reached out to the school. I told them that Paige and Nate are no longer allowed to pick up Owen and explained I do not feel safe with them around each other. They understood. There's not much they can do outside making sure they never pick him up. It's too late in the year to move classes, but next year, Charlie and Owen will not be in the same class. I notified the police, but again, they can't do much. We have zero in writing and a simple request to have my child isn't really breaking any laws. Unfortunately, all I can do is hope they don't try anything. I still haven't spoken to Owen. I think it's fine if he talks to Charlie and plays with him at school, but I have to find a way to explain why they can't have play dates or sleepovers. As well as to never to go anywhere near Nate and Paige. I guess that'll come in time. I'll update again if anything happens. I'm hoping this is the end. As some of Nate and Paige's defenders said, they did take my no well. So hopefully they realize how totally out of bounds they were and leave us alone. Update 2. Monday night, I talked to Owen and explained that Nate and Paige were not safe. He was confused and I explained that they wanted to take him away from me. I think it spooked him as he started crying, saying he didn't want to leave me and he didn't want to see them again. I held him and assured him he wasn't going anywhere. He understands he is never to go anywhere with them and that the school is taking measures to protect him. I said he could still talk and play with Charlie at school. He said he doesn't want to. I was honestly worried he'd hate me, but you all were right. Telling him the full story made him realize how serious it was. He understands the gifts and trips will stop and says he's all right with it. Also, I wanted to address one last thing. I've gotten a few people offering me money or gifts. Please do not do that. I am very appreciative, but that was not the purpose of this post. If you wish to do something, donate to your local shelter or other charity. Owen and I are not in need. I'd rather see it go to people who need it. I didn't see Nate or Paige at drop-off, nor have I gotten any contact, but then again, I did block them everywhere. Thank you all for your help. I'll update if anything else happens, hopefully it won't. Update 3. I have tried to post this update in true off my chest, but it keeps getting auto-deleted. Since I have so many followers, I figured I'd update here and hopefully it gets around. Well, what everyone feared would happen, did. Tuesday, he returned to school. I told him he could still talk with and play with Charlie. I was hesitant to drop him off but figured you can't live in fear. Most afternoon, my son takes the bus to a local rec center for aftercare. I had already told the school everything and that Nate and Paige were not to pick Owen up. I managed to call and even make sure he got on the bus. Aftercare was also made aware of the change in pickup list. Well, a half hour later, I get a call that Paige had tried to pick up my son. The front desk refused to release him. Didn't say why, just that she was no longer on the list. She wouldn't leave and the police were called. She was escorted out of the building. While she wasn't brought to jail, there is a police report and I am using this to go to court and get an order of protection. Paige and Nate are also banned from the rec center, so if they do /show up, they will get arrested for trespassing. The police are working on ways to protect us and the local social services office has been made aware of the situation, so should they try to make a claim, they're aware of the situation. Update 4. I hadn't realized it had fully been nearly 5 years since I gave an update to our lives, but I thought about this whole saga recently, found the account, and realized 3K plus of you follow this now, plus it seems I still get requests for an update. After this happened, I wanted to stay in the area we lived in. If anything, because I couldn't afford to move us. I ended up transferring Owen to a different after-school program. He still remained friends with Charlie at school. Apparently, even Charlie would call his parents weird and said he was angry with them for making it so Owen couldn't go over there after school. The rest of the year passed by awkwardly, but initially, the school did a good job of making sure Nate and Paige were not anywhere near my son. I was told they wouldn't be allowed to volunteer anymore, as Paige often did, prior to everything. Summer soon came, Owen started his usual camps, and I thought all was well. I had initially been told that the boys would not be put into the same class the following year. It had been too late in the year to move either of the boys, but when I brought Owen to school on the first day, I saw Charlie's name on the door. It's a small school, and they have a unique last name, so I knew it wasn't a coincidence. I spoke with the principal and was told it was impossible to keep them in separate classes and there were factors I just couldn't possibly understand. I regretfully didn't fight as hard, because I assumed Paige and Nate were still banned from volunteering. It was like a horror movie receiving a letter from the room moms of the class, typical letter I receive every year talking about fundraising, volunteer opportunities, when they raise money for teacher gifts, etc. Paige's name was right at the bottom. I once again spoke to the principal and was told that they couldn't keep Paige away from the school. She donated a lot of money, was great with the kids. They said since we had no incidents in 5 months at that point, we had to let it go. I tried to. I thought, maybe things have changed. But it brought me so much anxiety every time I thought about that woman near my son. The school was refusing to protect him. What if things hadn't changed? I debated switching schools, but this was the best in our area, and I couldn't afford private. I prepared my son. He said he wouldn't try to go with her and would scream if she tried to take him. Sure enough, First class party of the year, my son said Paige was there, and Owen said she kept trying to talk to him. She kept asking him to come over and even wanted my new phone number. I changed it for obvious reasons after everything went down. Thankfully, Owen knew better. But I just saw the rest of the year flashing before my eyes. Paige finding ways to be around my son, potentially breaking him down. Since the school didn't give a shit, I had nightmares of them letting her kidnap him. I knew we couldn't stay long, but again, I was broke, working a crap job, and I couldn't just pack up and leave. So, I started applying to some new jobs out of our city. As it was, I had one job working in retail, but I picked up house cleaning shifts and occasionally some babysitting shifts in between. I took a chance and applied for a live-in nanny position in a city about 3 hours away. I didn't think I'd have a shot at it, especially as I had a kid. But, I met with the parents and they were so kind, so sweet. They were more than happy to let me bring Owen with me and let us live with them. They had an in-law suite I could live in as long as I was working there. It was only one bedroom, but Owen and I were used to that. He was a little sad about leaving his friends, but we zoomed at the opportunity. I admit, I was nervous to put ourselves in a similar situation as before. What if these people enticed my son and wanted to take him? But, thankfully, they weren't like that. They were kind to Owen, but they maintained boundaries. I eventually told them our story and they were horrified that this had ever happened to us, and assured me they would never try to take my son. I was making better money living with them, and since I didn't have rent or utilities to worry about, I was able to save up more than usual. Owen thrived in his new school. The best part was, he got to spend time with me and the little ones I took care of. No more crazy hours, no more after-school programs. After 8 years, we finally caught a break. The family recently outgrew their need for a nanny, but they were happy to help me find a new job. This position isn't live-in, but I was able to save up to put a down payment on a condo. Something I never thought would happen. For the first time in 10 years, Owen has his own room. Something that both excited him, but he was also a little scared. With the help of my old bosses, who are now good friends of ours, we were able to decorate. And my new bosses are so kind and again, totally fine with me bringing their baby with me to pick up Owen and having him around. I haven't heard from Nate and Paige since April 2023. My son occasionally mentions Charlie, and I know he misses his buddy, but he's also relieved about where we are. I hope for Charlie's sake that his parents have calmed down, maybe they've learned their lesson. If anything, so they won't prey on another woman in my situation. I don't speak to anyone from our old city, no friends there, so I have no way of knowing. Sorry if that's not a fun update. But, that's where we are. Happy, healthy, and doing well. I'm 26 now, but many days, feel like I'm 42. I'm in a new relationship now, dating seriously for the first time since Owen was born. I have a group of friends who are also nannies. It took me 5 years to gain a support system. Still haven't spoken to my parents. Owen's father will never be a part of the picture, but we finally have a family. Still, he often tells me that if all of it went away like Nate and Paige did, he'd be happy with just us. God, he knows how to make his mama cry. Anyway, thank you all for the support and concern over the years. Update 5. Life has been so normal that I almost convinced myself the whole thing was something I made up. Grocery runs, packed lunches, school pickups with a toddler on one hip, folding tiny socks while Owen told me about science projects. I got my GED last fall and I'm taking night classes toward an associate's in early childhood education. The condo is small and perfect and Owen drew a silly comic of himself owning his own room that is still taped to his door. My boyfriend, Adam, built us a bunk loft over Owen's desk because he's cooler than me. We've been good. The kind of good that makes you superstitious. Then soccer season started. Owen begged to try out for a rec team because everyone was doing it and I figured if I could memorize 8 weekly schedules for other people's kids, I could handle one more calendar. We were at a Saturday tournament 2 towns over, sun too bright, everyone yelling at 7 different games at once. I was half watching, half trying to fish a crumpled granola bar out of my bag for the baby I nanny when I felt Owen's cleat tap the back of my calf. He had that look. He was staring past me like a deer on a highway. Across the field, by a line of folding chairs, there was a kid I knew like I knew my own handwriting. Taller, older, hair longer, same laugh that he did with his whole body. Charlie. For a second I thought I was seeing a trick mirror because of how both boys froze the exact same way. And then a man stood up behind him and my stomach just dropped. Nate. I swear everything around me went out of focus, like an old film. I hadn't thought about what I'd do if this ever happened because you can't plan how your body remembers panic. Owen's fingers tightened in my shirt. I could feel his heartbeat in the space between us. Nate didn't move at first. He saw us, saw me see him. He put a hand on Charlie's shoulder when Charlie started toward us and he said something to him I couldn't hear. He kept his hands where I could see them and walked over alone. Hi, he said, from a few feet away. He was thinner. Older in the eyes. No Paige. He looked like a man who'd been dragged behind a truck and then put back on his feet. I'm not here to cause trouble. I didn't say anything. I was holding Owen and every muscle in me was in that old, brittle place. Owen, Nate said, and then he looked at me. If it's okay with your mom, I would like to let Charlie say hello, just hello. In public. I understand if that's. I know. I know what we did. It's such a cruel thing when a voice you associated with harm is soft. I wanted to grab my kid and run to the car and never look back. I also saw Charlie on the other side of the field clutching the straps of his backpack like he might crush them in his fists. I told him we would not be going anywhere. We would not be exchanging information. If Charlie came over, he could say hi. For 5 minutes. In front of everyone. No Paige. No Paige, Nate said, immediate. She's not here. His jaw clenched. We're divorced. I didn't know what to do with that. He gestured to the chairs, and Charlie jogged over, skidding to a stop a careful 2 feet away from Owen, like there was an invisible fence between them and he didn't know where to step. Hey, he said. His voice cracked on the Y. You got taller. You too, Owen said, all stiff, then it broke and I watched my son's face go soft in a way I hadn't seen in years. They did the awkward boy half hug, half high five thing that always looks like they're inventing a secret handshake as they go. I was right there. I could have breathed in and counted each freckle on their faces. I kept breathing. We stood in the middle of a game and let the boys be 12 for 5 minutes. They talked about a video game update and a science experiment with Mentos and soda and how our city had a donut place with churro donuts that should be illegal. Charlie's laugh was exactly the same. It took everything in me not to cry in public. 5 minutes stretched to 7. I cut it off. I told Charlie he could see Owen tomorrow if we were both at the same fields again and if there were more adults than just me and Nate. The word supervised lived under everything I said. Nate nodded like he knew that already. I can bring my sister, he said. I want to tell you some things. Not as an excuse. Just so you know what happened, if you want to know. I said maybe. That night I sat on our couch after Owen fell asleep and told Adam everything again, all the old parts and the new sighting. He asked what I wanted to do. He didn't tell me what to do. That mattered more than he knows. I texted the mom of one of Owen's teammates who I've known since we moved here and asked if she'd be at the fields tomorrow and could she just hang near me in case I needed a second set of eyes. She said yes. We went back. Nate was already there with a woman who looked enough like him to be his sister and with Charlie. No Paige. The sister introduced herself, sat down on the grass with me, and immediately started telling me about her cat like we had known each other for years. It was so disarming I almost laughed. The boys sprinted off to warm up and then came back between games and just existed near each other. Talking. Trading fruit snacks. At one point, Charlie pulled a tiny, battered Lego figure out of his pocket and said, I kept this in my room since you left. He wanted to come back home. Owen rolled his eyes and took it and that was the only time I had to look away. The adults, meanwhile. Nate said things I had both wanted to hear and hadn't wanted to ever have to hear. He said what they did to me was wrong. He said, I let it happen. I wanted to believe we were being generous because that made me feel good about myself. It wasn't generosity. It was control. It was a story we told ourselves inside our house that stopped being about you and your kid and started being about our need to be seen as saviors. He said they went to therapy. He said he didn't go soon enough. He said things finally broke when Paige volunteered in a new classroom at their new school and the school called him because she had put her phone number into a kid's backpack without permission. He said there was a formal ban. He said Child Protective Services got involved with them, not because they were hurting Charlie, but because of Paige's fixation on other people's kids. He said he took Charlie and left. I know it doesn't fix anything, he said. I just wanted you to know you weren't imagining it. You weren't overreacting. We were wrong. Paige is. She's with her mother. Supervised visits with Charlie only at a center. If she ever shows up, call the police. I won't argue with you. Hearing someone you were braced to fight say the exact thing you'd planned to yell back is its own weird whiplash. I didn't forgive him. I did feel something in my chest loosen. The sister squeezed my hand. She said she'd tried to get involved sooner and hadn't pushed hard enough. She said she was here now. We stayed for both games. Then we did something I never imagined I'd allow. We took the boys to the snack bar together. Everyone else in the world was there, it felt like. I let them sit on the bleachers with their slushies while I stood with my eyes on them the whole time and talked to Nate from 6 feet away. I kept it transactional. He kept it humble. He didn't ask for my number. He didn't ask where we lived. He asked if the boys could game together sometimes and I said if we set up a monitored email and it went through an app I already had for the kids I watch and I could see everything, maybe. He nodded. He handed me an email address written on a receipt like we were teenagers in a movie. We got home and I told Owen the truth. I told him this doesn't mean they're our family again and also you are allowed to love your friend. He nodded with that old man seriousness he gets when he's trying to take care of me. He said, I know you won't let anyone take me. I also miss my best friend. It's been 3 months of cautious, supervised, sometimes awkward contact. The boys play the same game for an hour on Friday afternoons. I sit at the table with my laptop and pretend to work so I can listen to everything. They've had exactly 2 in-person hangouts, both at public places, both with more adults than needed, both within walking distance of the police station because apparently I'm still a little dramatic. We left every time with Owen chatting about nothing and my shoulders sore from being tense the whole time. It is getting easier. I hate that it is getting easier, and I love that it is. Both can be true. Then, last week, a small thing that felt huge happened. We were at the park, the boys were trading Pokemon cards, and a silver SUV pulled into the lot too fast. My stomach fell out of my body. I turned and there she was. Paige. In an oversized sweater, hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing those sunglasses people wear when they've cried. She saw us and stopped like she'd hit a glass wall. Everything in me went cold and hot at once. I stepped between the boys and her before I could think. Nate was already in motion because apparently he lives on the same edge I do. He put himself in her path and I saw his mouth form the words no and Charlie in order. His sister was on the phone with someone immediately. Paige stayed back. She didn't step forward. She didn't make a scene. She stood there near her SUV with her hands shaking and she said, from across the lot, I'm not here to take him. She looked at me. I was wrong. Her voice broke. I understand if you hate me. I hate me too. I didn't say anything. I wasn't going to give her any part of me that I'd have to take back later. Nate told her she needed to leave or he'd call the police. She nodded. She looked at Charlie once, quick, like if she kept her eyes there too long she'd do something stupid. Then she got in her car and drove away. I didn't breathe for a minute and then realized I'd scared my own kid because he was watching my face and not the scene. I crouched down, picked up the stupid Lego figure that had fallen out of his pocket, and handed it back to him. I told him he was safe. I told him to take one more turn on the swing. He did, because he's a child and swings still matter. I cried in my sunglasses like a loser. The next day, Nate texted from the email like a normal person, said he'd filed a report with his custody caseworker about the incident, that there would be a note on it, that her visitation center had been notified. He apologized to me again. He didn't ask to see us that week and I appreciated that he knew better. The week after, the boys played their game for 30 minutes and then switched to drawing dinosaurs in Google Docs like little engineers. I sat there and let the adrenaline wear out of my bones. If you'd told me 2 years ago I'd ever let this man stand near my child again, I would have laughed in your face. I still think I'm doing the right thing in the moment and then second-guessing myself after. I'm also watching Owen become a person who makes room for nuance, and that is, I don't know. It feels like giving him a chance to be soft around people wasn't just something I wanted to hoard away from the world because of my fear. It feels like growth. Mine and his. On the non-saga side, we're okay. I switched nanny families again and now work for a nurse who works nights. I do school drop-offs and dinners and homework help, which means I can be at Owen's games and do my own classes in the afternoons. Adam moved in officially. He's not Owen's dad, but he is the guy who shows up when the science fair volcano needs to look realistic and the guy who gets up early on Saturdays to slice oranges for the soccer team like a golden retriever in human form. Owen surprised him with a bonus parent Super Bowl mug he found at Goodwill and Adam cried into it and pretended he didn't. My mom emailed me. A 2-line email from an address I don't recognize, forwarding me a 5-year-old photo of Owen and writing he's big. I stared at it for an hour and then deleted it. It didn't feel like a door. It felt like a rock through a window. Maybe someday I'll pick up the phone. Maybe I won't. I registered for summer classes. I'm one math requirement away from crying in a Target parking lot and then a certificate. If all goes as planned, I'll apply for a teacher's assistant position next spring. Owen is lobbying for a dog. I said we can practice with a plant we cannot kill first. He rolled his eyes and came home yesterday with a cactus he named Steve. We'll see. Sometimes I still wake up at 3 a.m. and check that the door is locked twice. Sometimes I watch the boys from a bench and remember those months where my kid flinched when I said the word volunteer. Both things live inside me and I think maybe always will. But the other night Owen fell asleep on the couch with a book on his chest, the Lego guy in his hand, and I looked at his face and only felt that heavy, boring, beautiful quiet that comes when you've been running for years and realize you are finally somewhere you can breathe. I don't know if this is the ending. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe this is just our life. But it's ours. And when Owen was brushing his teeth he looked at me in the mirror and said, through toothpaste, I'm glad we stayed us, and I realized that, whatever else happens, that was the point.